Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meow Mix, a Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And we are here for, I wouldn't call it a special edition of Meow Mix, but maybe a little sooner than we thought we would be here, because there's some news, some Panthers news, sort of breaking. The big 13-foot statue of Jerry Richardson, former owner of the Panthers, is being removed, or has been removed.
I was going to say, it's already gone.
Yeah,
it's
as of yesterday. They put the tarp on it like he was dead and loaded him up in a truck and took him away.
And supposedly the Panthers, too.
And the Panthers as well, yeah, the two Panthers that were guarding him, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked. I thought they may have just left the Panthers there. But...
Well, so let's talk about the reasoning here. They said that this is the statement from the Panthers is basically that the statue was providing a public, well, I guess they removed it for public safety reasons, right? They had heard, quote unquote, that there were some plans to come deface the statue or attempt to take it down or whatever. Now, some of the reporters that are reporting this say that they heard no such thing, that there was no talk from any corners about coming and taking that statue down. But this is Tepper finding a reason to get rid of the final scar from Jerry Richardson.
And when Richardson sold the team, the statue, there was a little blurb in there saying that the statue had to stay. Now that there's a possibility, I'm using safety issues in quotes, due to the protest and, things are getting a little hairy. Since he has said some racial slurs and that was part of why he got the boot, they're like, there's safety concerns. We have to remove it.
Yeah, and which I guess is why they also had to take the two Panthers down with it, because if you just took Jerry Richardson out, well, they could still, the protesters are, could still come and take the Panthers down, I guess, if they wanted to, which would still be a safety issue. I think it's just, let's just get rid of the whole thing. I did see that it also provides more space for social distancing, when the stadium opens back up, so there's some alternate excuses coming out from Tepper. But let's be honest, Tepper just wanted to get rid of that thing, and this is the first way that he's found to do it without causing too much of a stir.
There was a nice little loophole here that he could take it down and not get much pushback. And it came out today, which today is Thursday, June 11th, that the statue won't return.
Yeah.
Sources told Scott Fowler of the Charlotte Observer that they don't plan to bring it back. So, and Richardson doesn't plan on suing to get it back, even though it was in the contract and everything. So, bye-bye statue.
That's and that was another thing that I was wondering about, is if Jerry Richardson would make a big deal about it, or figure out some way to get a few extra $1 million out of Tepper by suing. But it sounds like Jerry Richardson doesn't really care anymore. I'm sure at the time he felt he was sort of being pushed out, Jerry Richardson. So I'm sure he wanted, and he wanted some, I don't want to say control over the franchise, but he wanted to be remembered and wanted his likeness, I guess, to be associated with the Panthers forever.
Well, legacy. I mean,
yeah.
Especially someone in their late 80s, their legacy is a big part of who they are and everything. Even though he has $2 billion now.
Well, he doesn't really. I mean, apparently his kids can't stand him, so he didn't. Maybe that statue was all he had left. I don't know, but he. I wonder what they're going to do with it.
They're just putting it in storage right now. That's the latest I heard. Is just.
I wonder if he wanted it back, if they would just give it to him.
Can you imagine having that on like a lawn ornament? You go up to wherever Jerry Richardson lives and like his big, like I'm assuming 60-acre, massive mansion, Just in the backyard, there's that big statue back there.
Yeah, just put it in the courtyard, in the flower garden or whatever. The hedge maze. It could be at the center of the hedge maze.
Now, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think good idea, bad
Oh,
idea?
I'm happy with it.
I
It was weird, even when we all liked Jerry Richardson. I mean, it was just a weird, like, who has a statue of the owner? It's the same thing like with putting the NFL shield at center field for the entire reign of his ownership. It's just a weird thing that he was doing. That I don't know of any other owners that have done that.
Well, it wasn't. He didn't build it. It was a gift to him for his 80th birthday. The statue was only there for less than 5 years, and supposedly they gave it to him without even him knowing it. They got it all constructed.
He had to
and
know.
everything.
He had to know that it was going to be on the grounds. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
imagine that they would have been able to put that thing up there without him even given
Well,
given any sort of blessing. I mean,
I'm sure
that's a big
that-
deal.
I'm sure they gave him some short notice, but hey, for your 80th birthday, we've already have it constructed, and this is where we're planning on putting it. Oh, okay.
Jerry, you're so sweet, Jerry.
Yeah.
To think that that's actually how it went down.
I
You're
don't
so
think that,
sweet.
but you could be. But either way, after that Sports Illustrated article came out, there's no redeeming thing that having his name everywhere. Yes, he brought the franchise here, but he had multiple sexual harassment NDAs. He used a racial slur with a scout on the team. After the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, this franchise does not want to be associated at all with him.
Yeah, he's just not a part of the team anymore. I mean, and like you said, his reign ended, in a bit of a scandal. Certainly not as bad as some other owners that we've seen pushed out, like the Clippers owner, Sterling.
No.
He was terribly, terribly racist, and it was on tapes. And I mean, I don't think Richardson had anything like that going on. But, like you said, the sexual harassment, the racial slurs that were used, bad enough and not to be tolerated. Certainly not, with everything coming to light now, and everyone's stepping up. But yeah, I'm happy about it. I mean, I assume you are as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want this franchise to be dragged down by the negativity that ended his reign, which their former employees are very hurt by this man.
Yeah.
Yes, he brought the Panthers to Charlotte for us, and that was great, but at the same time, you got to think about how those people felt being, harassed, and then, the racial slur again towards the scout. And I'm sure that was one time. I'm sure there was probably others,
Of course, yeah. And he's an old man, no excuse at all. And we've all had bosses that have made us feel like crap, and we certainly wouldn't want to have to walk by a statue of them on our way into work every day, So yeah, I'm glad it's gone.
Inappropriate talk.
Yeah, sure. Jerry, have you ever had a boss that was inappropriate?
I worked in the restaurant industry, so that is a definite yes. The restaurant industry is filled with them.
Yeah. The real question here is, all right, two questions for you. Mm-hmm. One, will there ever be a statue of David Tepper, and either this stadium or the next stadium that he builds? Will there ever be a statue of David Tepper erected on the grounds?
I don't believe so.
I agree. Number two question, we should have a statue of someone in Panthers franchise history. Mm-hmm. Who, now I know we haven't talked about this, so I'm kind of springing it on you, but from the 1993, when the franchise was awarded to us, to today, who would you put a statue of
Joey
on
Sly.
Panthers grounds?
Steve Smith.
Taking out the obvious Joey Sly.
Luke Kuechly, Steve Smith, Julius Peppers. Those are the top three.
Yeah. Choose one.
I'm going Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
Even
Steve
though it
Smith.
ended badly because
Yeah.
of, Gettleman, I think his fire really lit a fuse for this franchise. I know it did for me as a fan just watching him play. So I would go with Steve Smith over then Luke Kuechly.
I think I'd go Julius Peppers, actually. Just because, number one, he's sort of built like a statue. Like, it wouldn't be that hard to commission. But he's so ingrained in the community here. And I don't know. When I think of Panthers all-time greats, I mean, Steve Smith, of course, Kuechly, Cam, a lot of the recency guys. But Peppers is just he's just such an icon. Not that those guys aren't. But I think Peppers, nobody would be upset with a statue about Peppers.
I could see that, but Peppers at the same time, he left us to Chicago and then Green Bay, and he had a lot of negative things to say, which Steve Smith did too.
Yeah, Baltimore,
but
and
Steve
he was
Smith
not happy.
mostly directed it all towards Gettleman.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well, but he had some negative things to say about Charlotte, and then the Panthers franchise in general as well. So, of course, Kuechly. I mean, I guess you could do Kuechly as well. Nobody has a bad thing to say about Kuechly, and he certainly is one of the icons of the franchise. I really don't think you could go wrong with any of them, to be honest.
I don't think so either.
But do you think that they'll wait? I mean, I don't know if they'll ever put up a statue of a player, but should they wait before they do something like that with Tepper sort of eyeing some?
Well, they have a statue
some
of
land.
Sam Mills up there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I forgot about that. Okay, well, I'm cool with just that statue then. I mean, Sam Mills is awesome. That means so much more to the franchise than just his playing days.
I think it means more without the playing days. I mean, just the keep pounding mantra is Sam Mills.
Yeah, he is ingrained in the Panthers for sure. All right. Well, any other thoughts on the statue being taken down? I did hear kind of a funny anecdote today. I was listening to the Ryan Russillo podcast from The Ringer, and he was talking to one of the guys who's sort of been integral in some of the CBA negotiations with NBA, MLB, NFL. I can't remember his name. I'll find it here in a sec. But anyway, he was talking about some of the CBA discussions with the NFL, and he mentioned he was asked by Ryan Russillo about any stories that he could tell, and he said he had 2 stories about Jerry Richardson. One was, in this last CBA negotiation, not the one that just did, but I guess the last one that Jerry Richardson was involved in. They were all sitting around the table and they were having like a lively discussion. And he said he looked over and Jerry Richardson was asleep in his chair. And a few minutes later, he fell out of his chair during the negotiations. And of course, everybody was, trying their best not to laugh. But he said eventually they just all burst out laughing. And then he said another story was it's that same negotiation. Jerry Richardson and Jerry Jones were having a discussion. And Jerry Jones told him, you may have long arms, but I'm going to get you on the inside. Like they were kind of like fighting, I guess, and getting upset with each other. So kind of a cool little inside.
Well, that negotiation, look. The players, he badmouthed a bunch of the players.
Yeah.
Remember that? And he was taken out of the negotiations.
I remember Jerry Richardson being very highly thought of at one point from the owner's perspective, like just one of the leaders. And then something happened, and maybe what you're referencing. And all of a sudden, he wasn't that well respected anymore, from the ownership leadership perspective. So, but he used to be a part of that kind of the small circle. I feel like Tepper might be getting there.
I do too. I think quickly. Tepper makes a very loud. When he speaks, he brings a bullhorn to make sure everybody listens.
And it doesn't hurt that he's the richest of all the owners by far. So.
The checkbook holds a lot of weight. As always, we want to thank everybody for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at Meow Mix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email them at mailbox@meowmixpodcast.com or just DM us at Meow Mix Podcast on Twitter. And if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show.
Yeah, and maybe we've got some merch maybe to give away, Jerry. So, any great questions or, interesting topics that are brought up, we may reach out to you, get your address and send you a little something.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for this episode. We will be back maybe next week. Let's shoot for next week. And with our recap of Carolina at Philadelphia and any other news that might come up between now and then. Everybody stay safe. And until next time, keep pounding.